also today, we learned that it was not one, not two, not three, not four, but 5 different Trump cabinet officials who, during the Trump presidency, were referred for potential federal criminal prosecution. 5 cabinet secretaries referred for federal prosecution during the one brief term that Trump was president. The first one was Trump's Interior Secretary, Ryan Zinke. Remember the guy who used to run his personal flag up a flagpole whenever he was in the building at the Interior Department? Zinke was investigated for corruption by the Inspector General at the Interior Department. The result of that investigation was that they referred Zinke to the U.S. Justice Department for potential criminal prosecution. The Trump Justice Department, surprise, declined to prosecute Trump Interior Secretary Ryan Zinke. He was first. Then the second one was Alex Acosta, Trump's Labor Secretary. He was also investigated for serious misconduct in office. He was referred to Justice Department prosecutors. Again, the Trump Justice Department declined to prosecute Trump Labor Secretary Alex Acosta. Third was Trump VA Secretary Robert Wilkie. The VA's Inspector General discovered potential criminal conduct by Wilkie, referred him for potential prosecution to the U.S. Justice Department. The Trump Justice Department also declined to prosecute Mr. Wilkie. Then it was only earlier this year we learned it was Elaine Chao, too, Trump's transportation secretary, investigated by the Inspector General at her own department on corruption charges. The result of the investigation was that Elaine Chao was referred to federal prosecutors for potential criminal prosecution. And the Trump Justice Department declined to prosecute her, too. I mean, it was amazing that there were 4 of them. Now today, numero 50, Wilbur Ross, Trump's Secretary of Commerce. The Inspector General at the Commerce Department has announced that their investigation of Trump Commerce Secretary Wilbur Ross turned up evidence of potentially criminal behavior. They turned up evidence that he provided false testimony, in his case, about the Trump administration's efforts to undermine the accuracy of the census. He falsely testified. And the findings were serious enough that the Inspector General referred Wilbur Ross to the U.S. Department of Justice for him to be potentially criminally prosecuted. The Office of Inspector General at the Commerce Department says that referral to the Trump Justice Department was made last year, January 2020. Despite the criminal referral, though, despite the findings of the investigation that led to the referral, the Trump Justice Department once again declined to prosecute Cabinet Secretary, in this case, Trump Cabinet Secretary Wilbur Ross. That has got to be a record. I mean, honestly, I'm not sure there is a U.S. government corruption index that's comprehensive enough to look this up in some sort of comparative way. But in any other presidency, any other single term of a presidency, have we had 5 different cabinet secretaries investigated by their own government agencies, which found sufficient evidence of potentially criminal misconduct to refer them to federal prosecutors for federal prosecution? 5 of them? I mean, what are there, 15 cabinet agencies? That's like a significant portion of the cabinet. And he was only president for 1 term. That says something about who the Trump administration had running the government and how they did it. It also says something about the Justice Department under Donald Trump, that in all 5 cases where cabinet secretaries were referred to them for prosecution, 5 times in a row they decided, nah, let's move on. What are the odds this will happen again? People talk about the challenge that Biden's Attorney General Merrick Garland has running the U.S. Department of Justice in the wake of what happened there under Trump. Yeah. Yes. Anyone looking into the handling of all 5 of those criminal referrals of Trump cabinet officials? Were those all thoroughly and properly considered? All 5 of them just happened to be nothing to worry about? Might the Justice Department look at any of those again? Do you think those are all properly handled?